This is the London Visited podcast on your favourite podcast provider, bringing to you the facts, history and information about different parts of this great capital. If you have been to London, are planning on visiting, live here or just love London from afar, then this is the podcast for you.
Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to our podcast. We're here for all things London, and in this edition of the podcast, we celebrate our 100th episode. Yeah, I can't believe it, 100 already. And we also go to Knightsbridge. We cannot believe that since starting this podcast just over 2 years ago, not only the volume of people listening each and every week, but also the places from where people are listening to it across the globe. When we launched our first podcast episode, we covered London Bridge, and since then we've covered so many of the great places in London's history, many that you have requested. I'd also want to say a massive thanks for the comments and also for the shares the podcast gets, helping us to seek out new audience members and to help others to love London. We love hearing from you, so if you've got any places that we haven't covered on the podcast, please do let me know, and you can do this on our website, www.londonvisited.co.uk, or you can email me directly via londonvisited@gmail.com to let us know. The podcast was originally started to support our YouTube channel, but the podcasts have been a fantastic source of information on London's long and unsettled history, from the Roman occupation of London back in about 50 AD, to the Plague and Great Fire of London, to more modern additions to the capital of the O2 and the London Eye, both of which are now iconic markers on the London skyline. Our reach globally has been astounding, with a majority of listeners coming from the US and Europe, but almost every country is represented in our listenership. By way of a thank you, this edition of the podcast goes live on Wednesday the 23rd of February, and we want to give away a London Visited t-shirt to one of our listeners. So, wherever you are around the world, all you have to do is go to our website, londonvisited.co.uk or londonvisited.com, takes you to the same place. Click on the Contact Us tab. Fill in the details and put the words Podcast 100 in the message. All that enter this way by 9 p.m. GMT on Wednesday the 2nd of March, 1 week later, will be put into a draw and one person will win a t-shirt. Good luck and thanks again. Now, this week we go to Knightsbridge. Knightsbridge is a residential and retail district in central London, just south of Hyde Park. It's identified in the London Plan as one of 2 international retail centres in London, alongside the West End. Knightsbridge was historically known in Saxon and Old English as Knightsbridge in 1050, Knightsbridge in 1235, Knightsbridge in 13th century, and Knightsbridge in 1364. That is, Bridge of the Young Men or Retainers, from Old English knecht and bricht. The original bridge was where one of the old roads to the west crossed the River Westbourne. The allusion may simply be to a place where connectors congregated. Bridges and wells seem to always have been favourite gathering places of young people. Knecht, in pre-Norman days, did not have the same status meaning of a minor noble, but simply described a youth. However, there is possibly a more specific reference to the important Knecht Guild of Connectors in the 11th century London, and to the limits of its jurisdiction. Certainly Knightsbridge was one of the limits of the commercial jurisdiction of the city in the 12th century. There is also the theory that the bridge may have been used by wealthy residents, the knights and ladies, rather than the common folk, and that the area was used as a meeting place for local youths, where knight was a slang term for lad. Even the original name of the area has come under scrutiny, with some arguing that it was called Knightsbridge, while others believe it was Knightsbridge. Knightsbridge was a hamlet located primarily in the parish of St Margaret, also of St Martin in the Fields. Part later that became St George, Hanover Square. It also extended into the parishes of Kensington and Chelsea. It was therefore divided between local authorities from a very early time. In the time of Edward I, the manor of Knightsbridge appertained to the Abbey of Westminster. It was named after a crossing of the River Westbourne, which is now an underground river. It is recorded that the citizens of London met Matilda of England at Knightsbridge in 1141. From 1885 to 1887, as a result of the opening of trade between Britain and the Far East, Humphreys Hall in Knightsbridge hosted an exhibition of Japanese culture, in a setting built to resemble a traditional Japanese village. The exhibition was very popular, with over 250,000 visitors during its early months. Japanese artisans illustrated the manners, customs, and art industries of their country, attired in their national and picturesque costumes, magnificently decorated and illuminated Buddhist temple. 5 o'clock tea in the Japanese tea house, Japanese musical and other entertainments, everyday life as in Japan. W.S. Gilbert and his wife attended the exhibition, which is said to have inspired him to write The Mikado. When the Mikado requests of Koko the address of his son, Nanki Poo, after Koko tells the Mikado that Nanki Poo has gone abroad, Koko replies that Nanki Poo has gone to Knightsbridge. Knightsbridge is east of Exhibition Road and west of Sloane Street, Brompton Road, Beauchamp Place, and the western section of Pont Street. Serve roughly as its southern border, together with their adjacent gardens as squares, such as Ovington Square, Lennox Gardens, and Cadogan Square. South of this area, the district fades into Chelsea, while Belgravia lays to the east and South Kensington to the west. Knightsbridge is home to many expensive shops, including the department stores Harrods and Harvey Nichols, and flagship stores of many British and international fashion houses, including those of London-based shoe designers Jimmy Choo and Manalo Blahnik, and 2 Prada stores. The district also has banks that cater to wealthy individuals. Some of London's most renowned restaurants are here, as well as many exclusive hair and beauty salons, antiques and antiques dealers, and chic bars and clubs. Bonham's Auction House is located in Knightsbridge. The district and the road itself, which is the only definitive place within it, is small, which assists its cachet. More than half of the zone, closest to its tube station, and nearer to no others, is Knightsbridge Underground Station. Knightsbridge had in its parkside east and west gold-coloured blocks of exceptional wealth in philanthropist Charles Booth's late Victorian poverty map, formerly excluding Brompton Road to the west, but extending well into Piccadilly, St James's to the east. Knightsbridge is home to many of the world's richest people and has some of the highest property prices in the world. In 2014, a terrace of 427 square metres sold for £15,950,000, a home in Montpellier Square. The average asking price for all the properties in slightly wider SW7 was £4,348,911. As of last autumn, on-street parking spaces have sold for as much as £300,000 for a 94-year lease. 14 of Britain's 200 most expensive streets are in the neighbourhood, as defined by the Times. In February 2007, the world's most expensive apartment at 1 Hyde Park sold off plan for £100 million, bought by a Qatari prince, and another apartment at the same place in February 2009, at almost the same price, was bought by another Qatari prince. Apartments of this secure, optimum specification address equate in excess of £4,000 per square foot, £43,000 per square metre. In 2014, a 16,000 square foot 2-storey penthouse in 1 Hyde Park sold for £140 million. Land in Knightsbridge is for the most part identified by the City of Westminster and part of the Royal Borough of Kensington-Chelsea, where former Brompton parts are included, as strengthened by planning laws governed by conservation areas. Albert Gate, Belgravia, Knightsbridge and Knightsbridge Green. Properties must be offered here by developers as refurbished flats or houses, meeting the enhanced architectural demands of the local conservation areas. Within each, many buildings are covered by the similar but separate requirements of being listed. Growing demand has, since 2000, persuaded the authority to revise its planning policies to permit roof terraces and basement extensions for residential facilities, from leisure suites to private nightclubs. The underlying landowners of a few streets making up, without any dispute, Knightsbridge are the Duke of Westminster, Lord Cadogan, and the Wellcome Trust, with a minority of the freeholds to houses in each street sold to others. Red brick Queen Anne Revival houses form the most of the Cadogan estates, while the white staccato-fronted houses are mostly found on the Grosvenor estate, designed by architect Thomas Cobbett. Brompton is only used when the postcode and/or Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea is being emphasised, rather than the modern central London district definitions, which suggest Knightsbridge or South Kensington, either tube station being the most 350 metres away, and thus can be found on all maps. For centuries, the area was renowned as the haunt of highwaymen, robbers and cutthroats targeting travellers on the western route out of London, but its fortunes were transformed in the 19th century. However, the area has been target of several high-profile crimes. In September and October 1975, the Spaghetti House siege happened. In November 1975, 2 civilians were killed by the IRA in the Walton's restaurant bombing. In 1980, the Iranian embassy siege took place, lasting several days, and it ended when the SAS stormed the building, which was live on television. In 1983, 3 Christmas shoppers and 3 Metropolitan Police officers were killed by an IRA car bomb outside Harrods. In 1987, the Knightsbridge Security Deposit Centre was the target of a robbery worth £60 million. In 2005, 22-year-old beautician Claire Bernal was gunned down by her ex-boyfriend Michael Petch on the shop floor of Harvey Nichols in front of colleagues and shoppers before Petch fatally turned the gun on himself. The case attracted extensive coverage in the media, and Claire's mother, Patricia, has since led a campaign to address flaws in the system, which allowed her daughter's murder to happen. Many residential buildings are heavily covered by CCTV and are staffed by security guards, and railings or bars on the lower floor windows are commonplace. To the north of the area is the Hyde Park Barracks of the Household Cavalry, with a distinctive 33-storey tower by Sir Basil Spence. The Royalty and Diplomatic Protection Department is based in Wharton Street. The Embassy of Libya is located at 15 Knightsbridge, the Embassy of France at number 58, and the Embassy of Kuwait at 2 Albert Gate, just off Knightsbridge. Knightsbridge is another one of those places where films set in London are quite often based, and you'll quite often see parts of Harrods, Harvey Nicks, or other parts of Brompton Road on there. So, I hope you've enjoyed our look at Knightsbridge, and if you want a parking space, £300,000, wow! Also, don't forget, if you love our podcast and the channel, why not join us as a member? You can join our group of what we call London Visited Crown Jewels, where there are so many different benefits, including a members-only monthly podcast. Have a look by going to www.patreon.com/London Visited. Thanks for listening. Really hope you enjoyed our podcast, and we'll see you soon on the next one. And here is to number 200.
Thanks for listening, and please don't forget to subscribe to get more shows direct to your device. Also, why not visit our London Visited YouTube channel to get even more of London. Catch you soon on the next one.